It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
I wanted to have on, welcome back to the program, we've got Michael Daugherty. He is the CEO of the Cyber Education Foundation. Michael, welcome back, sir. How are you?
Hey, good being here. How are you, sir? I'm good.
I'm doing fantastic. So what can you tell us about, what's going on right now? Last week we heard that Julian Assange was probably going to get kicked out of the Ecuadorian embassy there in London. Now we're hearing that that's not the case. What are your thoughts?
Well, this is the longest standoff we've seen in as long as I can ever remember, because on the one hand, you've got Julian getting refuge there because he doesn't trust what the U.S. government will do to him if they get their hands on him, because they think they'll hide everything. They'll use every legal loophole. And let's not forget, this started during the Eric Holder School of Law period, where we break every law possible, right in your face, admit it, and go, so what are you going to do about it? And so, the issue, on the one hand, the Justice Department probably would never get a conviction in a Article III public court in the United States, because it would throw the entire press freedom on the table. Because WikiLeaks was operating as a press outfit. And so they don't want to challenge that, right? So they're going to try to get him more on the military side. Mm-hmm. And he stalled the entire thing. Who knows if that's smart or not, because he's basically been a prisoner already. And so, as a matter of fact, he probably gets less outside exercise than prisoners do. So it's been, an unbelievable checkmate type game. But this absolutely is how, as we see through all these other issues with the Justice Department the past year and a half, listen, these people try to get you and goad you and bait you and beat you before you ever will get to court, so you don't get to court, because it's easier to use intimidation tactics.
Yeah, you might beat the charge, but you're not going to beat the ride.
Exactly. Persecution through process. Now, that's not to say that really your opinion of Julian Assange should be irrelevant about this. This really is about due process. Like, did O.J. not deserve a trial? Don't you think O.J. is guilty? So, this is how we're seeing that this is how federal law enforcement, federal agencies have worked for decades and decades. J. Edgar Hoover, man. It's all what they know about you, and it's all a big intimidation racket, whether it's going to be your reputation, your family, your health, your financial status, your spouse, your kids. It's, look at what they did to Mike Flynn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think I saw a meme of somebody talking about victims and oppressor and how Michael Flynn is an actual victim. Matter of fact, let me ask you this: we're talking with Michael Daugherty. Do you think the same people who are trying to go after Assange at this point, they're the same? It's the same type of people that are trying to basically nullify the 2016 election results. Do you agree with that?
Oh, sure. It's interesting. Not in the beginning. But it's an interesting point, because hell has no fury like a Democrat who feels like he's been scorned. And they just assumed that he was a Democrat and on Hillary's side until he wasn't. And then they had their own agenda, and they went after people around him because they couldn't get to him. His head PR guy had an entire Me Too scam put on him, Trevor Fitzgibbon, and had his life ruined, and he's trying to rebuild it now, just because this is what the media matters, destroy you politics that don't go along to get along does to you. So now, yes. In the beginning, no, because they all thought they were on the same side. One of the few people on the left who actually calls the left out on this is Glenn Greenwald.
Yes.
Who is really merciless on the hypocrisy, because he's a journalist first. But he lives in Brazil. He has his own platform. He's already, he has his own company. He's safe from their claws. But it's up to the American public to put their foot down on this. These people have to get elected out of the system, and it'll take a long time to do it, because they've been allowed to build within the system for a century. So it's like, you'll get the weeds out of the garden overnight.
So you're an expert in cybersecurity and everything else. I mean, so I think it's safe to assume that everything Julian Assange does is being, recorded. He's being watched. Everything he does in the Ecuadorian embassy. You agree with that?
Yeah, sure. And then they've cut him off.
Mm-hmm.
Ecuador, since there's a political change in Ecuador, they've cut him off. And so it's been very difficult. And now the press has really left Julian. I mean, this is one of the very few, media interviews I've done about Julian. Most people just don't. I mean, the press is ironic. It is about. It just shows how political the U.S. media is, because they should be all over this because they're trying to strip someone of their power, but the media really isn't the media anymore. It's in their self-interest that Julian not get punished, or they will be able to be punished later down the road.
Well, at this point, let me bring this up, Michael. At this point, I mean, Julian Assange is on record saying that his source was not the Russian government with those emails, but the mainstream media narrative that they say that it is fact that 100% it was the Russians that hacked the Democrat Party. But if Julian Assange is right, then that's not true.
Well, that doesn't matter if it's true to the mainstream media. They'll just look what they've done with the Mueller report. I mean, there was not a millisecond of reflection. There might have been a millisecond of shock. Then they just took another breath and spun another lie, because that's what they do. These people are not about the truth. They're about circle and confuse and power.
Gosh. Do you think that if something happens and Julian Assange, gets arrested and swept away to some non-public military situation, does he have somebody with like a finger on a button somewhere where he just releases everything?
Well, they systematically try to go after people that they know in the network that support him, but I think you will still see hell has no fury. I think that's the other part of the checkmate. That's why we're stuck in check here. We've heard these things before, and I think the biggest thing that they're trying to do is just wait him out till he gets sick and dies.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, you never know. You can never ride out. I mean, you can never ride off what possibly might happen. This is interesting. So the United Nations is sending some expert to visit Assange. What's that all about?
Well, it's about a human rights issue, and and it's an interesting turn. It politicizes it again, and it shows consequence to anybody if they actually play this type of Sopranos goes to Washington narrative. So it's just, there are political entities in the world that do want Julian to be safe. Now, it's interesting because he really has been very brave. He doesn't care who in the world he can tick off at a world leadership level. He's made himself the sacrificial lamb. I don't know if he knew he was doing that. But these Panama Papers, I mean, there's not a dictator in the world, and there's a lot of dictators in the world that are thrilled with Julian Assange, except if they can use him as a pawn to really tick off the United States. So.
Wow. Michael Daugherty, we really appreciate you coming on the program. It's always great to talk to you and kind of getting a take on this international story. Like you said, nobody's really paying attention to Julian Assange. It's probably because he's got the equivalent, the journalistic equivalent of like the nuclear codes. And so who knows what else he might release. Michael, I appreciate it, sir.
All right. Good talking to you. Thanks for having me, sir.